I'm Asa. I'm Asa, and I have we've worked this tool, and as Marco explained, we started with dairy, but we also expanded into other livestock components. I am a researcher, and I'm based in Nairobi, in Kenya, but I also do research in the East African countries, so Uganda, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, and sometimes Burundi, and Rwanda. So the Livestock Sustainability Assessment Tool is a tool that we have developed to assess sustainability, as it says, because we think that sustainability is important, and because society demands, there are so many demands for assessment of sustainability. So I'm going to go through some kind of a short presentation where I'll show you about, just introduce you to livestock issues and why it is important to assess sustainability of the dairy sector. And then we will look at the tool a little bit, what it offers. And of course, my colleague Miriam is going to present the tool itself, how to work with it later on this morning. So as a start, what is the significance? Why is the livestock sector important? The first thing is that it contributes to income, especially in the developing world. So many people are employed into the livestock sector. It contributes to the GDP. It also contributes to food security. And of course, in the developing world, we have issues with nutrition where especially animal proteins are lacking. So it is important, an important contributor there. And
I think there's an issue again. Screen is frozen. Asaah, maybe you switch off your camera on your side. I think we need to support the Nairobi University with a better internet connection in the future. Yes, Asaah, maybe you can switch off your video to improve the connection.
When it comes to demand of livestock and livestock products, with a growth in demand for livestock products and Asia, and also rising incomes, cutting down of trees to grow fodder and all of that on livestock production, because if there is flood, then livestock cannot be produced.
Yes, I can hear you, but the connection is very poor, so maybe you switch off your camera. Can you hear me? Okay, we lost Asaah completely now.
Well,
no, you're there.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Let me share the screen again.
Yeah, if you keep the video off, then hopefully it works better.
Yeah, the video is now off.
I think Marco.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see it also.
Okay, and you can see the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Marco, please, in case you don't hear me, just let me know. But I think that the connection will be better from now on. So I mentioned, I started by mentioning the significance why the livestock sector is important, and also mentioned about the drivers from the demand side, and talked about sustainability being an issue because of the pressure that the livestock sector is putting on the environment. But I also mentioned that the climate change has an effect on the livestock sector because production is somehow affected by droughts and all the shortages or the changes in rainfall patterns. And there is a big environmental impact. And based on the FAO reports, we have a contribution of about 14.5% of the livestock sector to the global greenhouse gas emissions, and of which 2.5% comes from the dairy sector. Then we can move on. Please confirm if you still can hear me well.
Yes.
Loud and clear, yes.
Great. So now, recently there have been lots of sustainability talks, and I think you can bear in the recent years. We've been talking about the people, planet, and profit dimensions, which I also saw in the chat when we were discussing about our views on sustainability. And there's also discussions about food systems approaches, and resilience. And we are talking about global sustainability, looking at the whole food systems with several actors along the food supply chain who are affected by sustainability, or who have a role to play when we want to look at sustainability. And each of them is trying to check, am I on track when it comes to sustainability, or is there anything which is required? But also we have policy makers who are also putting a lot of pressure on actors, like this is how we need to work when it comes to sustainability. And of course, we have the climate commitments and targets with several agreements that had been made. I've just noted a few. The Paris Agreement, where 196 countries agreed to limit the temperature rise. And we had the NDCs, which were developed, and each country has its own targets on how to reduce climate change. We have the Conference of Parties, which have been holding annually, and we are having the next one in Dubai next week, actually, and I know some of us in this meeting will attend it, will be in Dubai next week. And all of these are talks about sustainability, and livestock sustainability comes in because there's always a target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There are the UNFCCC, which is also a key driver of all of these. Then when we look at sustainability, there are different ways of looking at it, and the perspective might change slightly when you look at, example, in Europe, it is likely that milk production will decline by 0.2% annually. And this is because of concerns. There's a lot of concerns in Europe about animal welfare and the environment, with several policies that are tending on reducing nitrate emissions, and also there are also some policies that like phosphorus emission reductions and all of that, which and also people tend not to consume livestock products because of some concerns on livestock, sometimes animal welfare and personal opinion on livestock production and consumption of livestock products. And in Europe, there are also economic incentives. For example, there are subsidies and different support initiatives for farmers and even youth groups, which are not always available in African countries. Then we also have some conditionality and measures to promote soil health, which are and biodiversity, some subsidies also, and some policies to implement support of biodiversity and protection of natural resources, like the EU nitrate directives, which have been a long ago policy to support and to protect the soils and the groundwater. And socially, there is a lot in Europe when it comes to animal welfare and nutrition and health control. There's health concerns, which are not always the case in Africa. When we look at Africa, we see more the trend like livestock is first of all to provide income and to provide food security, and the poverty situation is so high that livestock first of all is more targeting to reduce undernutrition and stunting and malnutrition. Meanwhile, in Europe, there is also, or the concerns are more of overconsumption and obesity and just what we call responsible consumption when it comes to livestock products. So it just means that the sustainability challenges in Africa and in Europe don't seem to be the same. And in Africa, when we look at environmental sustainability, it's usually not a priority. People tend not to care so much about the environment because we care more about economic growth and nutrition issues, which are more pressing than the environment. And this has led to some challenges when it comes to achieving sustainability in Africa. And there is inadequate adoption of sustainability kind of enhancing practices because of limitations posed by smallholder farmers who, of course, might not understand very well concepts of sustainability, and also because of a lot of aggregation along the chains, which are dominated by smallholders. They face some challenges in achieving sustainability along the chain. And sometimes when we go to livestock societies, there is more people want to prefer to keep large herds, not because they are productive, but just because you want to have a kind of prestige, because you have a huge herd of livestock. And finally, there is limitation when it comes to awareness on sustainability issues, but also there is a limitation on government support and adoption of sustainability practices for two reasons. Governments might not have enough funds to support or enforce the different sustainability practices, but also because, as I mentioned before, nutrition and food security is a bigger concern, which is better prioritized than sustainability. So then, why should we assess sustainability in that case? So, first of all, policymakers need a lot of guidance. They need to know what areas they would have to move in, where they need to formulate laws and policies that can support in sustainability. And then we also have input providers that interested in knowing where they need to maybe source their inputs or how they can sustainably source their inputs in order to be more efficient. Finance institutions, for example, would want to prioritize their finance packages towards more sustainable uh, livestock sectors. And of course, different input providers will also want to know what is more sustainable, what actions are required for them to be more sustainable in terms of input provision or in terms of their supply chains. Then we also have processors. Processors would also want to strengthen their processing chains, sourcing of material and distribution of final products. And yeah, they would also want to see how what options are there in order to enhance sustainability along their chains. We also will look at consumers. Consumers also would products that they consume come from a sustainable chain, and there are we can illustrate a need for adjustment in production methods, such as shifting towards more organic agriculture to meet the evolving market demands. Those are some of the questions that when you study sustainability, you can respond. Is it necessary to switch to organic markets or to switch to more regenerative processes, or to switch towards enhanced biodiversity? So these are some of the new topics that are coming up that make it interesting for us to assess sustainability and come up with more informed decisions. Now I would want to also tell what the tool offers, because then you have known why it is important to assess us. So the tool, it serves as a scorecard. It's more a guiding tool that it can assess the current sustainability of various livestock sectors. For now, we have dairy, we have beef, and we have agro-pastoral systems. The tool has already been tested. It has been tested in a number of workshops in various countries in East Africa, and a very comprehensive approach. We mentioned the three pillars of sustainability, and all the pillars are incorporated in the tool. They are covered by the tool, and you can, while using the tool, be able to see how sustainable you are in each of the pillars. If you are more sustainable economically or than socially or than environmentally, and you can also try to strike a balance between the different pillars of sustainability. The tool is customizable. You can be able to check on acute threats to sustainability. You can select the aspects and the indicators which you find essential or critical in your condition, and base your assessment on those. You can also include those which you think are relevant, which probably other countries or other situations do not find relevant. Our tool, what inspired us to develop the tool? We've had several discussions. The Wageningen University in previous projects have interacted with several policymakers and different stakeholders who have thought that it was important to develop a tool and to identify the main threats to sustainability, and secondly, to do some kind of scoring, scoring of the performance of livestock systems, not only dairy, but also to generate further discussions on pathways and actions on how one can generate healthy diets, how one can improve sustainably, use various resources. The tool was developed for East Africa. It has considered the East African context, and this is quite an important fact that I would want to emphasize on, because most tools are developed maybe in Europe or in America, and they are adapted to use in Africa. But this tool has been developed with the main image of East Africa, with East African stakeholders, and tested, and is currently being used only in East Africa, but we hope that we might expand it to other countries in the next years. There were 10 steps that were involved. First one, inspiration. Inspiration came from interactions with stakeholders who raised the point that there were no tools that were suitable for assessing sustainability, especially in East African context. And what we did first was to check on the potential threats to sustainability, more of dairy sustainability in the East African context. And then in the third step, we selected key sustainability aspects. We looked at the people, the profit, and the planet dimensions. And in the fourth step, we defined 3 relevant systems. One
Connection is breaking up a bit again.
Level or some kind of a milkshake or a different to assess sustainability at national levels to select what am I still there, Marco?
Yes, but it's breaking up sometimes. But please try to continue. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to the last slide.
Okay.
I'm just rounding up, getting to the last slide. So the fifth step is where we did a selection of indicators for sustainability. What we did, we picked up some aspects which run across various systems and the different scales. So the farm, the milkshade, or the region, and also at national level. And we based our assessment or our search on several previous studies. We actually went through a very long list of studies on sustainability, came down to about 40 tools to 4 tools, where we deeply looked at them and checked what were the key aspects, what were the key indicators, what were the key trends that were having, but we didn't find any that was quite suitable for East Africa, and that is why we decided to build a scorecard that will fulfill the requirements for East Africa. Score levels, after we had decided to have 4 with a high level, like a good level, and in between, and a poor level. So we could say a 1 is a very good score for indicator, and a 4 is like a very poor score for sustainability based on the indicator. We are going to see details in the next presentation directly in the tool. And we also did a number of rounds with steering committees and discussing the tool, discussing the aspects and the indicators, and even with the drafts that we came up with. We did a pilot in Uganda and Ethiopia in 2021, which helped us to shape the tool further. And we have revised the tool and tested in other countries. I get some noise from the background. Is there someone else talking?
Yeah, I've muted.
Oh, okay, good. So we have, well, it's just to make it short, we have been working on the tool and have made further developments. And the most recent development was making a web-based version, because we initially had an Excel-based version, which was a bit cumbersome to work with and to consolidate scorings, especially when you work in a workshop with about 20 people. It was quite a big process to consolidate the scores. And so we worked with recommendations from previous users to develop the web-based version, which we are going to share. And of course, I know you will also get the link, and because it's also an open tool, you will be allowed to use the tool and also keep giving us feedback. So as a conclusion, we have made a lot of progress with the tool, but we don't think that we are at the end. We think that there is still, it's still an ongoing process, and that you have the web version, and keep sending us comments. And at some point we might get back to improving on the tool. But the most important thing is that it can stimulate important discussions on sustainability and keep various stakeholders into specific actions which will help improve sustainability of the not only the agro-pastoral systems. With that, I would say thank you and sorry once more for the internet issues.